The final week of the NBA regular season is finally here, and the MVP race is anything but a consensus decision at this point. Matt, I'll open the very simple question with you. Who is your NBA MVP in the final week of the regular season?
For me, it's Giannis. I think that Giannis has just consistently been in the talking, as much as everybody wants to point out Jokic and Embiid, and they've been the two main ones that everybody's talking about. There's been this movement now recently to just be like, shouldn't we just go with the safe and most reasonable pick? And that's Giannis, because he's basically putting up the same numbers that he has been putting up last season and the years before that when he won back-to-back MVPs. Once again, the Milwaukee Bucks are not just title contenders, but they're going to be one of the top seeds in the East, and they're currently the favorites to come out of the East for most people. Along with that, I think if you look at two of the most recent games, and a lot of times it seems like voters will pick out moments, and the back-to-back 40-point games to become the all-time leading scorer in Milwaukee Bucks franchise history, and the way that he did it against Embiid in Philly and then against Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn was absolutely unbelievable. The step-back three-pointer to force it into overtime in Brooklyn basically silenced anybody that would say, yeah, Giannis is great, but he doesn't have an outside shot. He can shoot, maybe not as consistently from three, but his mid-range is absolutely unbelievable this season. I think Giannis is, once again, just a safe pick, and you don't want to forget how great he's playing just because he's been able to do it year in and year out.
Giannis is a safe pick, and I wouldn't be upset at all if they ended up giving Giannis another MVP here now, because for all those reasons that you mentioned, particularly the moments, the consistency, obviously the team success, he's more than worthy. But at the All-Star break, at the midway point of the season, my MVP was Joel Embiid, and that's still the case. He had the Sixers a half game out of first place at the All-Star break without another star. And since then, and actually at that point, the game before the All-Star break, 42, talking about moments, 42 points, 14 boards against the reigning defending NBA champions in Pfizer Forum. That spoke to me. And just last night, this man dropped 45 and 13 in a win over the Indiana Pacers, which was his 12th 40-point, 10-rebound game of the season. 12 of them things. Only Moses Malone and Russell Westbrook have had that many in the season. Both of those guys won MVP in that season, and so should Joel Embiid. And again, we talk about, again, for half of the season, really without another running mate, he still had the Sixers atop the Eastern Conference just about. He's a scoring leader now at this point, one of the best two-way players in the NBA. And again, like I mentioned, the Sixers are, again, top 3 or 4 seed. So don't overthink it as far as the voters. Giannis would not be overthinking it, neither would Embiid. But obviously there's a large camp out there, and I'm going to ask it this way. There's a large camp out there, and it looks like the betting favorite is the Joker, Nikola Jokic. Why don't you give Joker the edge over Giannis, maybe Embiid?
I mean, for right now, I think it's so tight that it almost comes down to who you kind of like more. I know you've talked Embiid the last 2 years, and justifiably so. I mentioned Jokic last year just because when you read the tea leaves, it just seemed like Jokic was going to get it, even though I might think Giannis deserves it as well. And so that's why at this point, Giannis was able to repeat what he was able to do last year. Same with Jokic to that point, so I understand why he might get it. But it just comes down to when it's this tight of a race, you just give it to the guy that you think is a little bit more deserving. And I think the one thing, and this isn't on Jokic, but unfortunately this is how some people look at it, when you look at who's deserving of it, Giannis and Embiid are on title contenders. Jokic currently, unfortunately, looks like a team that's either going to lose in the first round or might lose in the second round after, a first, playoff series win.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it as well.
It certainly is.
And Embiid did say at this point, he's like, what more can I do? And unfortunately, Embiid, there's nothing more you can do. It's just you happen to be playing in an era where there are a lot of deserving guys for the MVP. Age. Yeah, it's a golden age, especially for big men right now, as versatile as they are.
And and talking about Joker, I mean, you touched on it. When you're talking about the team record, that's always been a part of the MVP, kind of mix, how we determine, who wins that award. And obviously Joker has been spectacular this year, offensively, passing the ball, rebounding at an extreme rate. But It's, again, I mentioned Embiid is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. The same obviously can be said for Giannis, who I would probably give the Defensive Player of the Year award to. You can't really say that for Joker, although he has been solid defensively. He has had moments, particularly in games where he's shown you that he's still a more than capable defender. But again, when we're talking about the MVP candidates, we're splitting hairs, and Embiid and Giannis are just on a different level defensively than Joker is. And again, the team record, the Nuggets are sitting at the 6th spot in the Western Conference, and it's still in play for them to fall into the play-in, with obviously Minnesota still having a shot to get into that 6th seed. And also, too, I look at Luka Doncic, who I would definitely have in my top 5 MVP ballot, probably right there neck and neck with Joker. How much more help has Luka had as opposed to Joker this season? I would argue the talent around those two superstars has been comparable, yet the Mavericks are locked into the 4th seed in the Western Conference. And obviously, Luka has been spectacular himself, averaging damn near 30-point triple-double. And
we haven't even mentioned Booker at this point either.
And those would be the 5 guys on my list. My ballot would look like Embiid, Giannis, Luka, and Joker, interchangeable at 3 and 4. And I have to put Book at 5 spot because averaging damn near 25, 5 and 5 on the best team in the NBA wire to wire. That'd be my NBA MVP ballot. But I know a lot of people would love to see Joker, get his 2nd. And that's another thing too. The NBA MVP award is such a historical, obviously, achievement. And we're talking about all-time greats. That's one of the things we point to. How many MVPs does this superstar, this all-time great has? I don't know if, looking back in time, Joker having 2 MVPs would sit well 40 years from now.
Back-to-back, too.
Back-to-back at that, exactly. And I think, that's something that should be taken into consideration. I know some NBA MVP voters do take that into consideration, but obviously not all, because, that varies from person to person. But
well, unfortunately, we don't get a vote, but we'll have to wait and see who does get the vote. As always, simple question. Thank you for tuning in. Matt Morris, Scott Proctor. We'll see you next time.